the wet back when we walk through.
You know, I brought a list of horses here over my career, and watching him today, I'm as confident as I've ever been going into a race. I mean, you know, you got to be eternally optimistic as a horse trainer and an owner, and this colt's doing super.
When did you start to think about the possibility of paying $150,000? I mean, when did that become a serious consideration?
Well, so Greg Back, who's here with us today, wanted to run in the Pat Day Mile, and I said, I don't want to change distances because he had won it 2 turns at Keeneland. And he said, well, I'll nominate him because he wanted to run the stake race. And I said, look, I want to run him in the allowance race. And if he wins the allowance race, we'll run him anywhere you want to run him. The moon, if you want to run him, okay? And as soon as he hit the wire in 142 and 1 or 2, we said, well, what about the Preakness? And I said, I'm not against it. He was impressive. And but the bad news is that Knucklehead here didn't nominate him because he didn't get his first race until March, and it looked like he wasn't going to be ready. But he has worked against all my best horses, and he's held his own against all my best horses. He just was a horse that needed to learn the routine. And so we looked at the speed figures after the race. Actually, we read the Equibase number. He got 108, and the Derby winner got 106. So started thinking, well, he probably fits against these, and he's going to get an extra 1/16 of a mile, which I think he'll handle. And you know, these races are weird, as we saw a couple of weeks ago. These races are really weird. If a horse is doing well and they come into it, then you know you can't be scared to pull the trigger.
Kenny, it's interesting with this horse. He's never been in a stakes race, but he's only run on big race days: the Fountain of Youth, Bluegrass Day, Derby Day.
Yeah.
Is that just coincidence, or were you looking for maiden allowance races on those big days?
Well, when he ran in his maiden race at Gulfstream, it was the wrong distance. We really were trying to get a mile and a 16th into him, and the race didn't fill. But the 7/8 race was impressive in its own, and I was actually happy that he ran second because I thought that he needed. I knew that I could come back opening week at Keeneland and there'd be a good spot for him there going 2 turns. But you know, he's jumped through those 2 hoops pretty easily, in my opinion, and he's trained well, and he's a good doing horse and sturdy, and certainly on the physical, you can look at him and say it's a really nice horse. So to jump from you know, allowance race into a grade 1, I mean, the Derby winner jumped from, he was an A other than himself. So like I said, these things are wide open. You get one opportunity.
The Thursday morning before the Derby, you said Epicenter was the horse you were worried about there. Thursday before Preakness, is he the horse you're worried about here?
Well, you've got to hope that he regresses a little bit. You know, he's been running, you know, all winter, and you know, he's a lovely horse. I mean, yeah, he's definitely the horse to beat. I think there's 3 or 4 or 5 in there that early voting, you don't know how the pace sets up. Simplification ran a very respectable race in the Derby. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but those off the top of my head were the ones that, you know, look like, and of course the filly.
You mentioned Epicenter might regress a little bit. Do you feel like he needs to regress a little bit for your horse to be able to here?
Maybe not. I mean, my hope is that he's wilted a little bit. I mean, look, these campaigns take a lot out of a horse, and they've traveled, and but he ran a big race in the Derby, and yeah, we probably need him to regress a little bit, and we need to move up a little bit.
Steve was worried about the heat. It's supposed to be 95 degrees humidity here. How much concern do you have about that on Saturday?
I don't have any concern with my colt. I mean, he's calm, cool, and collected. Always has been. He goes out there and never flinches. I don't think the heat will bother him at all. And I don't worry about what I can't control, but I hope the weatherman's wrong.
Even though he's only raced 3 times, he has had a lot of experiences. He's only run in large fields. This will be actually the smallest he's encountered. And it's not like he's been doing it by getting easy leads. He's had to pick his way through horses. Just from that standpoint, talk about the experience he's gotten, albeit not in stakes company.
His last race, he tucked inside. He took all the dirt, and then he tipped out and he kicked on. And he's going to have to do that this weekend. I like the fact that he drew inside. I think Brian's really good at the inside trip, and I think if he can save some ground and find the right running spot, he's got a chance. He needs to kick on another 1/8 of a mile past the wire, similar to how he finished in the Churchill race, and another 1/8 of a mile. If he can even just do 13 the next 1/8, he's gonna be in the picture.
Kenny, you won the race in the pandemic year when things were completely out of whack. Is this a feel of things back to normal for this year?
Yeah, well, there's less traffic. It was easier to get in and out that day. Yeah, it's certainly, like old times. I mean, I remember bringing Tejano Run back in '95, and it was, similar feeling. And Wayne had Thunder Gulch and Timber Country, and Tejano Run, of course, was the 3 T's Derby. But put a few miles on since then, and a few belt loops are missing, and shaved my head since then. But Wayne's still here.
Yeah. The one constant.
Where's Bob? Anyway, just kidding. We'll get him here. We'll get him here next
Never
year.
hesitated to take shots during your career. Why is that?
What is it Wayne Gretzky said? You ever make a shot you don't take. And I've taken a couple of them and hit it between Sarava and Swiss. So, I mean, look, that's the fun of the sport. It really is. I mean, it's great being involved in these kind of things. And if you feel like you've got a legitimate chance to just hit the board, you can't be scared, because a lot happens.
Doesn't putting up 150,000 show that level of confidence too? Like, not just going in the race, but supplementing it?
For sure. My wife and I own 10% of the horse, so part of that came out of our pocket. But that's my fault for not nominating and kind of seeing in the future. But for guys like Greg Back and Paul Fireman, every year we buy groups of yearlings, and I want to say Greg's had 4 or 5 this season. And you think about the 150. You've got to kind of look at it like, okay, that's the yearling that didn't work out. That's the yearling that wasn't creative minister, and that happens a lot. It's a game of, you buy a group of horses and one of them's a star and 3 of them aren't, 4 of them aren't. So their game is Dick Tracy to put up their share, and like I said, I think they saw that, okay, I'm willing to do it, so they were willing to do it.
When you won with Swiss Skydiver, you had the month to go to the Derby. To the Preakness here. If it was 2 weeks like this, like say what Wayne's going through, would that have changed your mind at all?
Well, the way that Preakness unfolded and the way the schedule was constantly moving, if there had been a Black-Eyed Susan that weekend, or at least if a better 3-year-old race, a grade 1 3-year-old filly race, she had already won the Alabama, and it was a regression to go into the Black-Eyed Susan. And then the timing to the Preakness, and we fortunately got a late nomination in on that one. She got nominated for half the price. I think it cost us $3,000 back to do her late nom. But that was just a weird how everything unfolded. There wasn't anywhere else to run her. There were no 3-year-old filly races left in the country. So I said, well, let's take on the colts.
Would you think, though, it's 2 weeks harder on a filly? Is it any different?
It just depends on the horse. Depends on how well they travel, how well they eat. The logistics of getting here is more difficult without Tex Sutton. So all of us had to truck up. There's a lot of dynamics that go into that. I'm not sure why it's a short field this year, but that's just the way it unfolded. Sometimes it goes like that.
I was thinking maybe even 3 or 4 of you, though, came just to take the shot.
I could have made a case with Smile Happy. I think he fits with this group, and he didn't have a terrible trip in the Derby. I don't know that I had a huge excuse, but my instinct was he needed a little more time for fall, and we'll get him ready for a race like the Travers. And Tiz the Bomb is going back to the grass, and then I had Rattle and Roll, who's running in a 3 or never won 3 this week, and he needs to get his confidence back, so he didn't really fit. And this horse was at the top of his game, so you bring the one you think can give you the best shot. Stakes Company.
So what kind of expectations? You believe he fits and everything, but you expected him to win those last 2 races.
I tell you, like I said earlier, I'm confident. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't, and he knows what to do, and now it's just a matter of how what level he fits at. I think he's, I mean, is he a better horse than some of my other 3-year-olds? He seems like he might be headed that way.